Welcome to the Being the Leader of Your Life podcast. I am your host, Becky Vaness. So what is being the leader in your daily life look like with relationships, with your body, with business, with money? And what if you knew that you were the only one stopping you from having the life that you desire? So being the leader is about the choices we can make now for the future we desire. And every choice you make contributes to creating the future. So what future would you like to create today? And what if there was something else available around leadership, being you, and empowering you to know what you know? I invite you to join me and my amazing friends to explore conversations in consciousness and the possibilities and practical tips and tools for being the leader and creator of your life.
Hello, welcome everybody. Hello, Christel. Welcome to this week's episode of Being the Leader of Your Life, and I am your host, Becky Vaness. And today we're going to talk to Christel Crawford. It's Christel Crawford. That's hard. You did get married. Did you keep your...
I didn't technically get married. We got engaged, and I'm still have my name. And even if we choose to fully get married, I'll keep my name. So Christel Crawford is
I love that.
relevant throughout all time.
Always. Thank you so much for coming on here. And I really am excited to talk to you today about business, and not just business, but like Christel, you have this irresistible charisma.
Oh. I'm just going to make animal noises while you talk about me.
Yeah, well, truly, it's like just this charisma where, I want everything that you have, like everything that you're like doing. I'm like, yes, I'll have that. It's like that piece is so cool, and so I'm really excited just to have you on here and be able to chat with you and ask you some questions.
Okay, where do you want to start? My goodness, let us start.
I have so many questions.
Ask me anything.
Oh, the possibilities. Well, I was looking at your website, and there is a quote that you had on there that was so cool, and I'd love to just like invite everybody to this. And like what it said is it time to be the gift that you came here to be?
Yeah.
Wow. And
So you're bask in the adoration. Thank you so much.
I need sound effects.
Yeah, got you.
But no, truly, you don't hear that very often, and you don't. Not many people speak. Even though I just said you're irresistible and you have this charisma, but it's always really like the underlining thing is like you speak to empowering people to know what they know about business, and just like that is now the time to be the gift. Yeah, the gift that you are.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Is that the secret? Is that like the irresistible gift?
That's the secret. If you guys choose that, you will have lots of money and a harem in heaven when you die.
Actually, it's hilarious, but truly, that is the secret.
It's the secret, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's really getting the gift that you are that like gives you access to this incredible deep well of energy and available resources to create with. It's so many of us are, we all start this, leading our life, creating our business wherever we start. And we start in a variety of places. I started what I like to call in a big, deep, dark hole. So I had to do backfill into the hole to get myself to the surface, to even really kind of begin this new creation, because I'd really done a number on myself. I was pretty beat up when I came in. And so, not everybody starts there, but So it took me like 3 or 4 or 5 years to even get to the point where where it had even occurred to me to ask the universe to show me the gift of me, and even getting that was relevant. When I started creating business, I really did it because I needed the money, and I couldn't go back to being a waitress anymore, and this was right there staring me in the face, and I could choose it or die. And so I do everything by no half measures. It's like, it's full on, you're going to die or choose. And so I'd started there, and I'd been creating business from that, like the need of money, the desire to go to classes, mostly money driven. And then at some point, like, it just stopped working that way anymore. I didn't care as much about that. It's like what I had been choosing from changed. And so it was one of those points where everything was either going to atrophy and go away based on things had changed, or I was going to, dig deeper, look farther somewhere into a different reality to find what this really was for me. And that to me has been the continual, I guess, internal journey of building this business, is continuing to look at, what is this for me? What is, because it's not, it's like, we don't really create for money. I think a lot of us, we learn and we teach ourselves to have money. And we learn that we actually do love it, but it's not really ever because of the money. It's the things that money can create, the choices that we have available, and all of that. So we have to somewhere get access to whatever's beyond that, whatever is greater than, what's greater than that?
Yeah.
And what turns out to be greater than that is like what we are and what we know, and the possibility that we're aware of for the world and as a world, and creating from and as that. So it's the adventure of discovering that and getting access to it. And from that, like, everything is really pretty irresistible, because you get to be you. You get to know what you know. You get to play the way you play. You get to show up the way you do, and that is the gift.
That's amazing though, because I think like that one piece that you started out with is you're like, I required money. I think a lot of people are like, I'm not doing this for the money.
Yes, you are.
Not willing. They're not willing to look at that first piece first. And once you actually like, I actually do require money. And I do like money. And hey, like, can I have fun and make money? Hello, double bonus.
Yeah.
But there's a piece there that I really loved, is like that journey of discovery, and then how you just kept going, and then going, and then you allowed yourself to be you. Like, that's the thing. A lot of people aren't willing to be like, if you want to come along with me, let's go. I'm looking at this, like, I'm looking at this in my life. I do like money. How many people are in business too, just say what they need to say instead of really like a few of those things. And that's what you said, like the wonkiness of like I'm going, this is what I'm doing. Hello.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing this full time for 6 years, I guess. And so I've tried a lot of different things. There were times when I would try to create from somebody else's good idea. Like, I'd buy a coaching thing with a thing and a person, and they'd have an idea of how it should go. And I would try that on. I would do the video series, to try to do the thing. And every time I would go, and it would never, ever, ever create very well. The times when I would choose just from, this is where I'm going, and if you guys want to come, please do, always worked better. So, and so sometimes you have to play with, you have to try things on. You have to see how it works for you. And so I did that. And so I started to get information, and that's what happens as you choose. You get the information. And so the information I got was like, well, they tell you that you should position yourself as the expert. But every time I give up the need to be the expert, and I just, choose and invite people to go with me, it actually creates so much more. Creates more money, creates more ease. It's easier to create from that. So it was kind of a trial and error discovery of finding out that what I'm interested in is actually much more interesting to me and to other people than what anybody else's good idea is. And I guess I'll just choose that then.
So you mean showing up as you?
Yeah.
This is the most irresistible product or thing that you could actually have.
Yeah, and what I want to say to that is true. And most of the time, you don't feel irresistible. It's not like you.
You have no idea. You're like, wow.
You're not doing irresistible. Yeah. You're not doing irresistible. You're not trying to do irresistible, which I also tried to do that sometimes. I'll be like, oh, be the invitation. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I'm just going to be myself, But in that you're being it, right? So it's like, it's so weird. It's so weird. So funny. That's another thing just to get, I guess, about, being the irresistible invitation is like, really what that is like, go from, like, shoot from the hip, go from your gut. Like, what do you
look a certain way.
It doesn't look a certain way. It can't look a certain way.
It can't, because it's always changing.
You are always changing. And every time I would try to, make, I don't know, whatever, be consistent or fit myself into something, obviously that was a fail.
Yeah.
So I had to build into my business model the fact that it always changed. And then I was able to just be the organism that I actually am. And that turns out is very interesting.
and fun. For me personally, I find it hilarious. Like, I'm super dyslexic. So in certain systems, like I have to create things to have ease with whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of times. And I show people like this app, like to pronounce people's names, because it's not very polite to mispronounce every like brutally badly mess people's names up. So I have this app, and I have a headphone in my ear, and like when I'm talking, I'll look it up, and it'll pronounce it in a dialect. And I never thought people would be interested in that, but it was a system that I just created. Because of the way my brain processes things. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I have an app to, I don't, brutally mess up your name. And then other systems that come into play, I have to remind myself, alarms going off all the time. But they thought it was fascinating. I'm like, this is fascinating to you guys? And
well, your difference is fascinating. I mean, like, that's... you're different. So it's like, what is this?
Here's my app. I'll show you my app that I use, and you can download it. Yeah. And, I was like, doesn't everybody have to create systems to function in this reality?
Well, I think too, like the other thing about being yourself is like when you are willing to be that, then you expose to the world your different way of navigating through the world. And then other people that are different too get to see that you're different and you're showing it. We're so accustomed as the people that are different to hiding it, so that because it's judged and it's wrong and all that other stuff. And then the more of us that are willing to just show it, it gives this incredible permission to the rest of the ones that are still hiding it to be them too. And I think that's what's interesting about it. I have people that watch me for years on my YouTube channel before they ever come to a class, but they're just like watching the transformation. It's like, wow, this is really possible. I'm like, yeah, for you too.
That's so cool. So what is it that people stick around for that long for you and they're watching you?
Well, I hear a lot of feedback on just like a lot of people just say like, you're real. You don't like try to make it sound like anything it's not. You just talk about what it is. And again, I was a little bit handicapped in that I really couldn't do it another way. Sometimes people are like, how did you come up with this, like, just being real thing? I'm like, I couldn't talk for 30 minutes if I didn't make it about something that was going on for me. That was all. You'd have no show because I would just be spouting whatever, dribble. Really? Dribble can only come out of my mouth for so long before I'm out of things to say. So I always had to speak from something that was occurring for me. And so that's one of the biggest feedbacks I get is like, you're just so real. And the second thing is like, you make the tools really clear. But again, that comes from like what is this thing that I'm like, okay, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. What is that? What's occurring? My own.
And how am I going to apply that?
I'm always struggling with this. Like, when it's broken, is it actually broken? Or is there am I missing? Like, what am I not? So I go deep diving into it to find out for myself, how does this thing work and what's changing with, and that's what I want to then, communicate to people. And so all of it emerges from my own curiosities. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So clarity and realness are probably the two things. And apparently those are kind of rare commodities. And I would say what are you, whoever's listening to this, that is really actually rare in the world, that if you would just expose it and be it, would give other people the permission to be themselves.
Nobody has your story.
No.
We're all so unique, no matter how we try to be samesies, fitting in different.
Yeah, we don't fit.
We definitely don't fit in. I think that I did try to for a while.
Oh, I tried hard, and I can look the part for about 30 seconds until I open my mouth, and then I'm different.
Something just random.
And then something's just really off. What did she just say?
Did that just come out of my mouth?
Yeah, it did. It's going to happen again. Are you ready? You want to keep listening? Are you sure? Can't look away? Okay, good.
That's why they stick around. They're waiting. Everybody's waiting.
That word just came out of that sweet face. I'm like, yeah, you thought I was nice.
Oh my gosh, that is so much fun. I love that. And, this podcast is truly about being the leader of your life. Mm-hmm. And, I would say, Christel, you totally are just the leader of your life. And have you always been that way?
Goodness sakes. No, actually, I don't get that I've always been that way. I'm sure and certain that I have always followed something that I would give it up for years at a time and then return to following again is probably more what happened. So maybe I have always been the leader, and yet, I have definitely given it up in favor of marriage, in favor of a relationship, in favor of, whatever, doing the right thing from that moment, but it was access consciousness that introduced me to the conversation of creating your life. I'd never even, that was just never, it was a non-reality when I first heard it. And being the leader of your life wasn't even in my wheelhouse. I don't even know if I've really even looked at that till this year. Mm. But as I grew with the consciousness conversation and I, kept choosing and kept, expanding and becoming more of me and everything, the willingness to get that I am actually, the willingness to get, I guess, what it is for me, what this, so what, why this, not from purpose or anything, but just that sense of things grew. And the unwillingness to live without that anymore grew. So I was like, okay, I'm really willing now to be this in the world. And what that looks like is, okay, I have all these choices in front of me. What will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this aggressively instead of thinking and everything? Because I don't know what this looks like in the world. I'm just following what creates a greater future. But my commitment to that has really changed in the last probably 3 or 4 years. So it's growing.
Yeah, it's that piece of I'm not giving me up anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever me is in this seconds.
And I still do here and there. I still have moments where I give me up. But I do get that the willingness to be me is deepening and expanding and growing as something I can choose more and more often, and not without need of understanding it, just getting that I'm on a spectrum, and that's not only okay, but really game changing for the world.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're watching this and you're like, well, how do I even start? We don't have conversations about being you. This is not something that we're taught in, when we're born or kindergarten. And I'm not sure if you have a different tool, but I recently have been adding some alarms to my phone And a lot of them are like, what is my like reality?
And where do I find it?
Yeah, like, or like, what is my financial reality? You know, like different things. Like really, like what do I, like if my body could create anything, what would it be? You know, like really just adding, like really asking these questions to have some of, you know, the awareness show up of like, wow, what is that for me? What do I know? Even like, what do I know is even really a great question to start. Like, who am I? And like, what would I like to create?
Yeah. And I really use also, like, if I were including me here, what would I choose? If I were including me. Because I've noticed for a lot of people, and also for me, like the first person I exclude just almost instantaneously without any thinking is me. You know, so I'm always, I'm practiced in the ways of other people and what they need, you know. And so I had to repattern or repractice, you know, grow or whatever the word is, to like begin to include me in like awareness of what would I even choose here, you know, if I were included. There was another one in the left of my head, but yeah. Anyway, that's probably the primary one. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, it is it's a new thing. And I think it's important to say too, like, you don't feel like anything, you know, when you're being you, it doesn't feel like anything. It's just, it's not, angels don't sing, trumpets don't sound. It's like literally very spacious and easy and non-significant. So it's easy too when you're being you to like not note it. It's like,
yes.
Notable.
It's not notable.
You know, and yet that's from there, you can create anything. You can really truly create anything. And so it's what would it take to be willing to be that in all your iterations, in everything that, you know, comes up or everything you try to squash. Like if you weren't going to squash it, what could you choose? If you were going to like allow yourself to be this entire spectrum that you actually are, what could you create right in this moment? You know, what could you choose right now?
I love
moment
that.
by moment. Yeah.
And I can tell you when it's easier to know when you're not being you.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm quite grumpy or like just like you know, and that's not my normal like I like to have fun. Yeah, really me and you've got to hang out a bit, like at certain times, like we're like, yay, what else, look at us.
You're always working though, so next time we hang out, like let's create a multi-million-dollar business.
Let's do it. Can we do it now?
That sounds fun.
Did you see that the non-grumpiness that just came in?
That is like my favorite thing to do. So
you know when you're like, yeah,
hello,
that energy. So yeah, if you're not happy, you know, if you're
go do what's fun for you, even if nobody else thinks it's fun.
Yeah, you might want to look at like, oh, who am I being here? Yeah, and one more thing I want to ask you, because we've been talking, like, I love to have these quick, but I always say that and they're never quick. But you also have the space with business that's so brilliant. You just keep going. It's like you never give up. You never quit.
Yeah.
And what is that? Yeah. And can I have it too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of it came I think in the beginning, I know a lot of it in the beginning was like, okay, this became my source of income. And so to let it go was to like need to kind of totally change where my income was coming in.
Okay.
And then that stopped being motivating, which was a little concerning because it was still the source of my income.
Okay.
And yet the motivation went away. So it was around that time that I actually chose a 10-part class with Shannon O'Hara called The Business of Succeeding. That was pivotal for me because among all the questions that she asked, she got us to really start to look at basically like, what is this? What are you creating with your business? And she asked that so many different times and in so many different ways and she really pressed on us that if you do not get clear on this, things cannot grow. That I got present with it. I'm like, yeah, what is this? And I think in a lot of the conversation that she stimulated for us, she got us to look again at like, what did you become aware of when access consciousness entered your life? Like, what was that? Because for me, it was this like instantaneous spark of life that I had literally felt like I'd been looking for billions of years. Like,
Me too. Yeah.
and so it was that. And I went back, I brought that up again, and I stayed with it. I was like, yeah, this is what it is for me. And of course, had no words, and, you know, it had no words, but it was palpable and present. And so I allowed that awareness, that universe, I guess, of possibility of energy to change me. Like, I really, really, really was with that because it was the thing for me. It is the thing for me. And it's such a impossible thing to describe how you do that, but I just was with it, and I allow it to be there, and I allowed it to transform me, and I allowed it to change the way I was talking about things. I allowed my doubt to melt any of the other things that I was doing that wasn't just being this in the world and allowing this energy to exist in the world and contributing it. I allowed everything else to fall away. Wow. And it's so interesting because that is my blue flame. Like, that's the thing that I never let go of now. I just know.
I don't think that I'll ever let go of that again. Like, thank you for that, because I got it, and I was just like, wow. That. And so whatever that is, like, and if you're like, wait a minute, I missed it.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah.
Re-listen and just be present, and just like, what is my, like, that blue thing?
It's so interesting because it's not a why and it's not a purpose. It's a sense, and I wouldn't even say it's a reality, but it's like this universe that gets opened in you. But if you can just continue to tap into that, becomes the energy for, like, that is the energy of life worth living for all of us. Gary has this incredible question in the Bars Manual of, like, what would it take? He words it better, but it's like, what can I be, do, have, create, or generate to create life worth living? And it's not a life worth living, it's life worth living for everybody. And to me, that's that. And so I just don't let that go anymore. I'm like, this. So I return to that energy, or tap back into that energy with, like, what is this for me? In every conversation, every class, everything I'm creating, what is this for me? And that gets me communing with the energy that I'm being, the energy that this is, and it allows it to come forth into the world in all these different ways, all the different means, methods, and modalities that it can come forth into the world as, then emerge. And I'm never giving up on that. That's something that I know that I am. And when you get access to that, you are literally unstoppable.
Wow. I think I would marry you right now.
Yes.
That's how irresistible you are. I'm not kidding. I'm like, that. Yes, that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for asking.
I'm so grateful that you came on here and just that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. How can people find you?
My gosh, go to infinitebeingschool.com and you can get a whole taste of Access Consciousness, a 30-day challenge. That's my website too. It'll take you so many fun places, but start there. Start on YouTube with Christel Crawford. So much there, shows and resources for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm still so much space after that. Love you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Christel.
Thank you for listening to this episode. My target is to create more possibilities in the world and empower people to know what they know and create more consciousness. So, if you find this podcast helpful, please leave a review and share if you know someone that this would also contribute to. You can also visit me on my website at becky-vaness.com and be sure to subscribe to check out more episodes. See you somewhere soon. Bye.